What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction, and this title's got me. This time, if ordered to, would British soldiers open fire on British citizens? Before we start the video, I'm personally going to say no. I don't think they would, unless that citizen was putting other lives in danger, then that would be understandable. But other than that, I don't think, even with orders, that they would open fire on British citizens. I'm very intrigued to jump into this though and see what they have to say. But before we do, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give a bit of thumbs up. Also, if you like to support the channel by becoming a member, all you gotta do is hit that join button and receive your exclusive benefits. Let's get right to it.
Right, let's get straight into it. This is one of those questions that recently has really sparked a heated debate, especially on my videos in the comments section. Would the British Army ever turn its own weapons on British citizens if ordered to? Now, in the current climate, with rising frustrations over immigration, government decisions, economic struggles, and the general feeling that the divide between the people and the state is growing wider than ever, it's
For
no
sure.
surprise with all the protests, riots, and unrest that people are asking this question. If
Yeah.
civil unrest escalated into large-scale protests, riots, or even a complete breakdown in law and order, could the army be deployed on British streets? And if they were, would they obey orders from the government, or would they refuse if it meant clashing with their own British citizens, their family, their friends? That's what we're going to dig into today.
Oh, that's tougher when you put it in that scenario, with a scenario where there's riots, all of these things happening. And like I said, when you put in a situation now where someone's potentially putting other people's lives at risk with riots, you have this potential for oh, I still don't think though. I don't know.
Step by step, history, law, training, morality, and reality. So
Okay.
grab yourself a Combat Ready HQ brew.
Did you know there's a way to drink ice cold?
I don't know why I'm watching that.
Combat Ready HQ brew, sit back and let's get into it. First, we need to clear something up though. The British Army doesn't just deploy on the streets just because the government feels like it.
Exactly.
In the UK, law and order is down to the police. They're the ones that are trained and legally empowered to deal with protests, riots and public disorder. The British Army is there as a last resort, under what's called military aid to the civil authorities, or MACA. This framework allows the government to call upon the military for support if the police and other emergency services are completely overwhelmed. Examples of this then: soldiers on the streets during the 2012 Olympics to cover the security gaps, troops driving fuel tankers during the fuel strikes, troops out and about during COVID giving their support at testing sites and dealing with logistics. Even in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, soldiers were deployed under Operation Banner. So yes, legally the British Army can be sent onto the streets of Britain.
Yes.
But this is important. The rules of engagement, the mission and the restrictions would be very, very different to going overseas on combat operations. Here's the
I absolutely love that. And I completely agree. Like he said, they're the last resort. You can't just, I'm not happy with the way things are going in this town or this. Hey, British, military, I need y'all to come in and get these people in check. You can't just do that. But last resort, if you need them, right? You can call them. And when he talks about them coming onto the streets, it's only for good things, it sounds like, right? To drive these fuel tankers. Nobody wants to drive these. Sounds like they're being attacked. Here are the troops driving them. What else did he say? Oh, to help out with COVID, to help out with the 2012 Olympics. So they're being called in not to police citizens, but to just help out where needed, where maybe they don't have enough officers. And so last resort, they got to get some guys from the military to come in and help out.
£1 million question. Would soldiers open fire on British citizens? Here in the UK, the short answer is highly unlikely. But let's dig into it a little bit further, and here's why. British soldiers are trained under strict rules of engagement, known as ROE. We are not given rifles and just told, do as you see. Even when overseas on combat operations, we have rules of engagement. Every round that is fired must be legally and morally right. It needs to be justified. This was the same when they're in Iraq, when I was in Afghanistan. We had rules of engagement. We couldn't just open fire on absolute everyone and anyone. It had to be justified, reasonable, had to be proportionate. Now let's put this into a domestic scenario. We've got soldiers deployed to London. Just imagine that. Maybe Birmingham or Manchester. This is in support of the police. Their role would not be to attack the public. It would likely be things like protecting key infrastructure, guarding supply chains, providing manpower for cordons and checkpoints, assisting police on patrols and with logistics and security. Is it likely though that British soldiers would carry weapons? Yes, it is. But the likelihood of them being authorised to use live ammunition against civilians is almost zero. But it could happen. The blowback though, the legal challenges, the political chaos, it would be catastrophic. You have to remember, soldiers are citizens too. They come from these communities. They've got family, they've got mates, they've got roots in these very streets that you're living in. They go back to them on weekends and on annual leave. Asking them to turn their weapons on their own people, that's not something the British Army is built for, and that's not what's drilled into them.
See, and I completely agree with that. I think he's 100% right, and that's how I felt in the beginning of the video. Yeah, they're not going to just turn it on the people because they're ordered to do so. Like he said, they've got families, they've got friends, they got people that they love and care about, and they're not just going to do that because you've ordered them to do so. And so 100% I believe that. And I think, like you said, just last resort. And I think, I would hope most countries are like that, and where you would only bring them in for citizen issues as a last resort, but not as because, hey, I'm unhappy with him sending the army, unless like that city was just absolutely overrun with crime. If it was Gotham City, okay, send in the military.
And I can bet these British troops don't want to be put in that position. So with all these protests, possible riots coming, civil unrest, Britain is at boiling point. Would the British Army open fire? Not unless there's immediate or lethal threat to life. And even then, I think there'd be real hesitation. It would be a complete last resort. But there is another angle. What if the government did give that order? It was complete breakdown of law and order. People completely at each other. It's hard to get hold of weapons in the UK, but imagine if citizens did, and you had different groups going at each other.
Then I think you have to. You don't have a choice because you just said that there's an immediate threat to life, and you got these citizens with guns going at each other. Yeah, they can't just be shooting these guns. They don't know who they're going to hit, and you're not supposed to murder anyone. So I need to stop you from doing that. I guess by murder, but you force my hand. But yeah, I think they would, in that scenario, I think they would open fire if given orders.
And the British Army is told, use lethal force to control this unrest. Would the soldiers follow it, or would they refuse? This is where it could get tricky. Soldiers swear an oath of allegiance. I swore that oath of allegiance. Not to the government of the day though. Not to any politician. But it was to the king. Back then it was to the Queen. And by extension, this is to the people of the United Kingdom, to protect them domestically and overseas. I've still got mine up on the wall right there. The British Army is also trained to operate under law, okay? Whether that's British law, military law, and a legal order, such as ordering soldiers to indiscriminately fire on unarmed civilians, possibly armed civilians though. If we had a complete breakdown, just imagine that.
Yeah, when he say complete breakdown, I'm thinking like they already shooting each other with these weapons. They already stabbing and beating each other with these weapons. That's what I'm thinking when he say complete breakdown. I'm thinking again, Gotham City, and I'm like, you gonna have to shoot. You go into Gotham City, you are gonna have to take some people out. But yeah, so if he starts talking about a complete breakdown where tensions are like starting to build and boil, citizens have weapons, but no one's pulled them out yet, so possibly armed, but you don't know for sure. And now you have a lot of unarmed citizens who are just mad and look like they're about to go at it. But I feel like he said, as long as there's no immediate threat to life, like they ain't pulling out these weapons and ready to use them, then no. But I think if they do start using the weapons, yeah, I think the military would.
They were unarmed. It would not only be unlawful, but it would expose every soldier to prosecution. British
Yeah.
military culture is different to other countries, where the army could act as an extension of political power. The British Army, though, it's subordinate to democracy and law. This means our soldiers, they can't just pick and choose orders, but it does mean they are trained to recognise illegal ones. And we have the right to refuse. So if such an order came, you'd likely see mass hesitation,
Yeah.
refusal, or even mass pushback. And let's be honest, the political fallout from
Oh,
trying to give such an order
yeah.
against its own citizens would most likely completely collapse this government. And
Yeah.
that raises the big question. If soldiers did refuse, what would the government's next move be? Would they double down or
No,
back off? We'll come back to that.
you'd have to back off. How do you double down? Who are you going to double down with? The army, the military, they just refused you. The police can't handle it, or you wouldn't have called them in. So who do you have left to double down with? You got to back off. You don't have a choice but to back off.
So let's bring this back down to earth. Britain really is at a boiling point. Different groups are at it. But if this civil unrest escalated due to the frustrations over immigration, government policies, or other divides, what would actually happen? The British Army, first and foremost, would just deploy in a supporting role. Logistics, transport, medical, guarding key sites, and there to support the police, okay, giving them more manpower. They deal with the law and legal side. We can just deal with stopping them and providing more manpower, providing security, and even just down to riot control. It wouldn't be soldiers fully kitted out, webbing, body armour, helmet, ballistic goggles on, rifles made ready. It would be more of a dressed down, more casual, maybe webbing on, but most probably no body armour, wearing berets. Yes, they would have their rifles, but more than likely they wouldn't even be loaded. You'd see a lot of soldiers behind the scenes doing that support, making sure critical functions don't break down. That nightmare scenario of troops firing on civilians, that's not how Britain works. That's not how our British soldiers think or operate. The backlash would cause more unrest, not less. And the army knows this. But what if
I think there would be an absolute revolt. Like, I think that would band the people together because you give them a common enemy if they were to open fire. But like I said, he said if there's immediate threat to life, then they ain't really got a choice. But other than that, it doesn't seem like they'd be willing to fire under any circumstances less than an immediate threat to life.
situation did spiral so far out of control that supporting roles weren't enough? What if soldiers did end up facing angry crowds, forced to make those split decisions if someone's life was in danger? And speaking of preparation, if you want to fuel yourself ready for your own missions, make sure you check out our Covert Ops coffee. Strong, smooth, and battle ready for whatever your day throws at you. And while you're there, why not grab one of our t-shirts? Wear the ethos, wear the mindset, and represent the community. You can check out the link below, combatreadyhq.co.uk. Our British Army today is far more cautious. They're restricted, they've got their rules of engagement, and we are legally bound more than ever. So, would the British Army open fire on British citizens if ordered to during civil unrest? The answer, I would say, is almost certainly not.
Yeah.
Not unless they really saw immediate life-threatening danger.
I get that. Yeah.
Are we going to see them deployed on the streets? Possibly. Britain is at boiling point. We do have civil unrest. We have a lot of protests going on. These are starting to get violent. I believe the police are going to start getting overwhelmed if it carries on, if nothing is done about it. But more than likely, you'll see the British Army there, once again, a supporting capacity. Dressed down as well, webbing, no body armour, no helmets. Weapons, yes, possibly, but they won't be loaded. Most probably not even walking the streets with live ammunition. Would they refuse illegal or immoral orders for the government to say use any force necessary? I think you'll see a flat out refusal. They don't want to turn on their own British citizens. They don't want to turn on their family and friends. Maybe a lot of them agree with what you're thinking. Yes,
Yeah.
they can't say it. They've got to look non-biased, but they're also
Mhm.
trained, highly trained. They're professional and they're ultimately accountable to the law and to the people of Britain. The British Army's job isn't to turn against its nation, it's to
Yeah.
defend it. And in times of crisis, that duty doesn't change. What do you think? Comment below. Would the British Army hold the line? Or if there is risk of escalation, if things really broke down? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know where you stand on this. And remember to check out our Covert Ops coffee in the link below. Remember, never be beaten.
I think I agree with him. I think, like he said, unless there's anything less than an immediate threat to life, then it's a no. And like he said, the backlash would be just absolutely awful. Like there be the people would revolt. It would become even worse. I feel like, and I feel like not just the UK, but you got Australia, you got the US, you have a lot of countries. Also in Europe, a lot of countries that are starting to reach a boiling point. I react to videos of Germany, videos of Poland, videos of uh, the Netherlands, and a lot of these countries are reaching boiling points in terms of it seems like there's a lot of mass immigration happening and people aren't integrating well and it's draining the governments of these countries. But I also think the governments of these countries brought over cheap people for cheap labor to do certain jobs, and you can't just kick them out now. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people who came on their own. There are a lot of people who came illegally. They made that choice themselves. Um, but I feel like there are a lot of people that are there maybe because they're generations down. Their father or grandfather was brought in by the government to help or for cheap labor, and they were good. And now you're there, and now you're starting to see the identity of your country change. You're starting to see more and more non-native citizens in your country, and I think a lot of people are afraid of change. I think a lot of people are frustrated and fed up, and the fact that there's so many people coming over, and life is just getting harder. It's like the people that are here already are struggling. Like there's people that are already struggling. We have so many that are in poverty that are, and you're bringing in more people instead of looking to help these people. And so when you bring in more people, you're bringing in more competition. Now there's more demand and not enough supply. So now there's more people struggling. There's more people at the bottom, and there's more people every day getting fed up and fed up. And when they see everything, they see these prices going up, and they see all these people coming in, and they see other people getting help, but they can't get help. At some point, it's going to boil over. But on the side of the immigrants, right? Maybe you live in a country where it's violent. Maybe you live in a country where there's no opportunity. Maybe you want to have the opportunity to give your family a better life. I completely understand that, right? And I would never be the one to turn you away and say no. Even though there are criminals that come over illegally, I feel like there are a lot of families just that need an opportunity, that just need a chance. And I couldn't be the one to turn them down. So I understand both sides of the argument. And that's why I'm happy I'm not a person in charge of that, because if it was me, I'd probably I mean, you give me a sob story and I'm letting everybody in, no matter if your story's real or if you're a good enough actor, I'm letting, and then that's going to drain the system and it's going to collapse. So I'm glad I'm not the person in charge, but you just see the situation from both sides. That's all we have. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, check out the next, and I'll see y'all next time.